Welcome to Book Club for Movies, everybody, for the week of December 2nd. I'm Ryan Miller, and TVVB. Matt Amberg.
Set, spike, match.
Like at the end of every pinball game?
Yeah. Wait. You set the ball and then you spike it into the pinball machine and then it breaks and you win.
Have we just been doing TV pinball this whole time?
Oh, my gravy. This explains so much about the point system we have that doesn't really, that somehow randomly gets bonuses added. I'm not real sure.
Yeah, that's true. We don't really know how any of it works. It doesn't really matter. This is it's Book Club for Movies, but this week it's TV volleyball. We've watched a bunch of shows. They've built up over time, and this is the release valve. I don't know.
You're not wrong.
We don't plan these ahead of time.
Ever.
Matt says a show and or I say a show, and then Matt says a show and or then I say a show until it's over.
And then one of us wins.
Yes, somebody does win at the end.
Yeah.
Again, we've never established rules that really can help us understand why, but there is a winner.
But we know there is a winner, and that's the important thing. You don't ever want to go into something without one.
Part of it is who begins. That's one of the strategies here.
And I am jumping out. I'm interrupting right now. I'm going to jump out in front of you, and I am actually going to say you need to begin because I am all over the place with what I watch. I know the roller coaster. I watched it happen.
I'm so off my game now that
yes,
brilliant beginning.
Yeah, no, I'm on top of this is now you're playing from behind, and that's the way we like to go.
I'm going to start with some showstoppers in that the shows could probably stop.
Here comes the Flash.
Stupid. It is. It's totally the Flash. How'd you know that? Flash season 5 recently wrapped up. The thing with the Flash, I've said a zillion times, it's in rare form this time around. I have an endless issue with the character motivations on that show, which is probably the wrong way to watch that show. In what must have been it was so bad it must have been a misunderstanding on my point. We get a new Wells this season. He's a Sherlock. So he's investigating Barry and Iris's daughter, who has come back from the future.
Nora
is also a speedster. Yes. And because she's got something hidden about her, turns out, spoiler alert for all of these shows.
Yeah, I haven't seen. I don't know anything about it, so I'm excited about finding out.
You don't care either, so
no,
I'm
I don't.
Spoil
it's
for you.
Comic books, man.
She's been working with Reverse Flash and hasn't been telling anybody. So, in a way that she's been overly trusting of him, she's not like an evil person, even though she becomes an evil person for a couple of series. That some of that's interesting. The whole season isn't bad, but in rare form, Iris becomes upset at Sherlock, the Wells character this season, for investigating her daughter because her daughter could do no wrong. And then later on in the season, again, I must be misreading something, when she finds out that Sherlock correctly investigated her daughter, found out that she was working with Reverse Flash or something, and then didn't tell Iris becomes mad at him.
Oh, sure.
So it's just this wonderful, wonderful turn of events that, again, it is so bad. I must be misunderstanding something.
You shouldn't be doing this, but the fact that you did it and found out the information then didn't tell me makes me even more mad.
It's beautiful.
I feel like we're talking about politics now.
No, it's not that bad. That you go to Supergirl for that, which is my next show.
Oh, good.
I don't know why I'm still watching The Flash sometimes. I'm having more problems with it than not, it seems. But there's still... So the big bad this season was Cicada.
Yeah,
and
terrible.
I think the overall arc was good. The premise is still there's a big bad for an entire season. There's something they build to, and then they beat him, or they don't, or they do. They're still doing that. And I'm a few episodes even into the new season, and they appear to still be doing that again. Although they I feel like it's a little bit of rehash, because they're building to Crisis on Infinite Earths, where Flash has to die. In fact, I guess I just saw that those aired. Did the Crisis?
I have no idea. I don't know. I think it's either just aired or it's in the process of going through it.
Which I think I just answered my own question. That's why I keep watching this thing, is because they keep doing just enough to be like, well, I got to work up to this thing.
Well, I know Crisis. That's the end of Ollie. In some
was
way.
that how they're
The Arrow's definitely. I mean, because the show ends this season in total.
That's right.
And then they're
That's
jumping
right.
into the. They're doing a spin-off, and I think it's like Green Arrow and Birds of Prey or something like that. I think they're doing a Birds of Prey show as well, or a Birds of Prey thing now again.
They're
maybe?
not doing a Felicity standalone show.
No, thank goodness.
I'm sorry.
You mean, and the show would have to be called The Smoke Show, which would just be the
worst. For several reasons. No, I feel bad. She's never been the strongest character for me. I'm sorry.
No,
Arrow's got its issues.
She was not good at the beginning. She was always one of the weakest written and poorly acted characters in that series. Like,
I'm sorry.
She's not. I mean, to be fair, and I will just straight up say it, man. I think there are plenty of good episodes of Arrow. I think overall there was a good show in there. I think half of the people in that show were definitely CW actors. Like, I like Stephen Amell, man. That guy seems cool as all hell. He is a terrible actor. Terrible. He's got no emotion. There's nothing. He's just constantly like pensive. Like, he's constantly got his butthole tightened up in all situations.
It varies between that and, I don't know, maybe this is because I watch the crossover Arrows more than anything, but he has this consternation about him where
all the time.
I think where they're best is when they play off of that, especially when it's him and Barry, and there's a little bit of that. In fact, there were moments in the last crossover where I did laugh because him and Barry switch places for a bit, and they play off that a couple. Like there are a couple good jokes on "You Have Failed This City" that I laughed out loud at. Yeah, but yes, overall, I didn't watch Arrow for this show. Let's put it that way.
I haven't watched Arrow for a long time, and I probably will never actually finish that series.
I might get this. I found a plugin that lets you watch any video that comes through your browser at any speed you want. So I'm like, I could watch Arrow at like 4x, maybe.
That might make it better, but
you would get through. I would get the story. I could also just read
I'd say read this and just go to just go to Wikipedia and check out the season that you're interested in.
Do I want to read or do I want to watch TV? That's what it comes down to.
But the reading only is going to take you 20 minutes. The watching the TV show is going to suck hundreds of years of your life away.
Still,
watching
probably,
Arrow
yes.
at this point is like that part in The Princess Bride where Carrie Elwes is put on the machine and Christopher Guest says, "I just took 1 year of your life away. How does that make you feel?" And he just cries. That's Arrow.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to allow it. That's a movie this week.
Okay, fine.
But I will fault myself, and we've spoken enough about whatever we're speaking about so far, and coming off of Flash, that I'm going to volley to you, sir.
Sure, I'll pick up Flash and I'll stick with the DC universe. I've got a couple of things here. Let's go with the big in of the group. I think Gotham.
Gotham
finished season 3, 5 seasons total. Finished season 3. Started up on season 4.
Thank you for leading with that. That's always my second question: was this the final season now? You just was that?
I got
the show
it.
Ending.
I actually I looked it up to make sure. Yeah, 5 seasons total.
Thank you.
Finished third season and I love this show. I love it so much. It's silly. It's goofy.
What can you add?
So here's what I can add.
Okay.
I was actually like at the end of season 3, I was actually totally shocked at how everything they did in that season kind of worked for me, with the single exception of there is an episode that is heavily Joker based, and I don't mind how they've worked Joker. I don't mind any of what they did in the episode so much as it falls into one of those like those motivational things about why wouldn't you just do that? Why? Like there's no reason for and this is one the frustrating thing here too is that the way they've built up the Joker, Jerome, who's got a brother and they're twins, but one of them is dead, and now I don't know. It's a weird thing.
Okay.
But one of the things is they kind of leaned a little closer to he is completely all about let's be as totally public as possible. Like he's very much so that Joker, and very much so the Joker of I don't care about things. Nothing really bothers me. I'm just trying to. And he has all these opportunities to kill the people that he wants to kill. In particular, he wants to kill Bruce. And there's reasoning behind it. It's not the best, but it's there. And he has the opportunity. He has Bruce totally locked down in a spot, can kill him. And it's meant to be one of those moments where you realize that Bruce is getting older, and now he's in his mid to late. He's probably 16, I think, at this point in the show.
Okay.
And we're supposed to get that he is far more intellectual and he's far more smarter. He's far more brilliant than most other people, especially his age. And at the time, they're Joker is basically his age, maybe a little bit older. But it's one of those moments where Bruce says, "Oh yeah, but if you do this, you're not going to get that." And it's oh man.
Oh.
And so Joker, instead of killing him, and then it's fine. That was pretty much the actual dip in the season for me, was that like one episode.
That seems like it would have been a perfect moment to not. I mean, obviously, they're going to be like, "Why is Bruce better? Why is Batman better?" But it could have been such a good moment to showcase the Joker. Really, I feel like it would have made him a real threat. Have Bruce escape just because the Joker's capricious type thing. Really establish the Joker.
That is kind of what they go for. That is exactly what they're aiming for, is that Bruce is able to take Joker's capriciousness and go, "Oh, well, if I know you want to kill me, but if you do this, if you kill me first, you're not going to get this thing." So it works. It was just not the way that it was played out. It was really more of this should have ended right here. Honestly, Joker should have just killed him. Done. But
how does that work?
Well, exactly, it doesn't. So okay. You can't have that happen.
Although that would have been pretty amazing.
That would have been ballsy as all.
For a show that's kind of like in the universe, not in the universe type thing, that would have been.
Well, and so they actually do have there is this kind of weird out that they have with Bruce, where the Court of Owls, who has been an overarching villain for the past 3 seasons, they have a clone of Bruce. And the clone, so now we know, everybody kind of knows in our group of people anyway. So we know Selena and Ivy know, and Alfred know this clone exists. Bruce knows the clone exists. The clone is the clone has no feelings, literally no feeling in his body, so he can get hit and kicked and shot and nothing hurts him. And it's weird.
It is.
The season ended on just fantastically, where the whole season is a lot of Penguin and Riddler going back and forth, fighting each other. At one point, Penguin tries to tell the Riddler he loves him, loves him, and it's not reciprocated. And he kills the Riddler's love interest, so the Riddler kills him, but he's not killed. Penguin's still alive. It comes back at the end where they have to work together, and then Barbara Keene is involved, and it starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The Court of Owls is there. Dr. Hugo Strange shows up, which again, always give me all the Hugo Strange. If you're pulling out
BD Wong,
yes, then you gotta do it.
Pull out your BD Wong. That's your advice to
always get your BD.
Yep.
Get your daily BDs. My favorite thing, though, at the end of the season was there were two little one's kind of a wink and a nod Easter egg. The other one is really just more evolution. The wink and the nod Easter egg is that this one character that had been in the show from the beginning, Butch, he was originally the Penguin's right-hand man. Then he becomes Barbara Keene's right-hand man. Then he's in love with this other woman. He gets his hand chopped off. He's always this big dude, and great, love the character. The guy who plays him is super fun. The character interactions with everybody. He's supposed to be the big dumb oaf, and he's not the smartest guy in there, but he's not the dumbest oaf. And he's definitely got he's got motivations for all the things he wants. Finally gets killed at the end of season 3, and they're doing the autopsy, and his name is Cyrus Gold. That's his actual real name, not Butch whatever. Cyrus Gold is Solomon Grundy's real name. So I don't know if he comes back, but I'm really hoping Grundy shows up between the 4th and 5th season.
Cool.
And then the final thing at the end of season 3 is you get the first real, I would say, appearance of Batman. He's not dressed as Batman, but Bruce is being Bruce. He saves people in an alleyway. He climbs up and he hides and he does his thing, and he's got his coat on and he's got a little hood on and everything, and it begins. And it's great. Like
Batman Begins? Is that what you just said?
Basically, yes. It's great though, like the how he gets to there. That whole season, there's a whole chunk of the season where Bruce is actually taken from like the clone replaces him, and he's taken by somebody who wants to destroy the Court of Owls, and it feels an awful lot like the character is supposed to be Ra's al Ghul, whatever you want to say, and he does. If
it's Liam Neeson, it's Raish. If it's anybody else, it's Ross.
Right? Yeah,
Ross. ROSS even. Just
his name is Ross Al. Is his middle name Ghul? Goul. Yep. Ross Al Ghul is.
That's it.
But this guy kind of teaches him and does this stuff to take him into like his memories to try and get him to lock away all the pain and all the things that stop Bruce from being the protector that he needs to be. And it's great, man. That arc, the way that works, really fun. The beginning of season 4 starts really strongly, continuing on with that last scene from from season 3 with him pseudo Batmaning. Really good, man. Okay. Everything about that show has like every issue that you could possibly run into conceptually with the CW shows is almost like not here, but they lean into things the right way so that when those things pop up, you're just kind of like, oh, all right. There's more to it than not to take things away from the CW shows. I enjoy them.
No, man. I understand immediately what you're talking about. Yeah.
This is just more of like, honestly, this will make sense for you because you're familiar. It's Bruno Heller. He just he goes a little more fantastic with some of the stuff, and you have to, if you are able to do the thing that at least I am able to do, where you go, this is an Elseworld story. It's just another Batman story. It's not
that's not even an issue for me. Yeah,
and if you can get everything they do with the characters is pretty great. I actually really like it. I think that almost all the actors are good. I think that the kid who plays Bruce Wayne, David Mazouz, I think that kid has actually, like, in the 3 seasons, has grown tremendously while keeping exactly what that character needed to be in terms of how he was performing. Like, he was very kind of fine at the very beginning, gets a little stiffer in terms of how he's doing things as he gets a little older. Like, he's trying to feel how to do this, on a regular basis. And then he just kind of picks it up, and no, you know what? That kid is kind of exactly what I would imagine Bruce to be as a teenager. And growing up, he as he gets older through the show, you see him listening to Alfred more and loosening up a little bit more and figuring out how to become the playboy and the caped crusader. And it's cool. Right. I like it.
Man,
go them.
You sell me on that show a little bit more each time, and I think it doesn't mean I'm going to go download it and start watching it soon or anything, but I think you just fully sold me on it. I think I will. That's on my list now.
I think it's worth it. If you like comic book shows, I think this is worth it. It's the show is completely focused on Gordon, but
yeah, and he's the big. That's Ben McKenzie, right?
Yeah,
that's the
The whole show is really it's Gordon and his rise to becoming commissioner. It's a lot of him and Harvey, not Dent. Harvey Bullock.
Harvey Bullock. Oh, right. Yeah.
Donal Logue.
I recognize that name. And who's Barbara Keene? You keep saying that name.
Barbara Keene is his girlfriend at the beginning of the show, right off the bat.
Is she in the comics?
She is.
The name sounds familiar.
She is, okay. But I don't remember how she plays in the comics.
Okay.
But she is she's his girlfriend, and then the first season is her slowly but surely becoming more and more insane. And then as it goes on, that was my biggest hurdle in the show, was that character, was Barbara and James' kind of connection. Knowing where it goes, that all makes so much more sense. Like, I am way, way, way more into what they were doing back then, even where it was it could be maybe a little annoying. Getting to where she is at this point in the show for me, freaking totally worth it. Totally worth every little thing about it.
Gotcha. And I totally get what you're saying about the CW thing. Like, to take nothing away from it, like there are moments where me and my wife are watching any of those shows and we refer to it as being CW'd for a second there.
Yep.
Like whenever the shows like get a little more dramatic or soap opera-y for a second, which I feel bad about complaining, because all we want are like these popcorn comic book cookie cutter action, like what exactly are we looking for?
Right.
We can stand to get a little CW'd here and there, I feel like, with this stuff. But
yeah,
also hearing you say that, I was like, man, a lot of this feels like attributable to Bruno Heller. He's just not, and I don't know who the showrunners are for those other ones, but he seems to be
Guggenheim. Mark Guggenheim.
Oh, is he the one?
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Yeah. No, he's the guy that produces all of them. He's all of the CW DC shows. I think he's the dude behind all of them.
Okay. And I'm going to do something terribly irresponsible here. Time out.
Okay.
You mentioned the Court of Owls.
Mm-hmm.
I keep seeing on DC Legends, wonderful game. Again, we've been playing it. Just need to talk about it. There's an upcoming event for a character called Owlman. And it's Thomas Wayne?
Yeah, Thomas Wayne is... So... That's
I know it's a bad, like, I shouldn't have brought this into the discussion.
No.
It's very irresponsible of me, but
I can't give you all of the background on it because I don't remember when or where, but it was like an alternate reality where he's not killed, if I remember correctly.
So that was one of my favorite parts of the New 52 is where, spoiler for lots of things here, the Batman of the New 52 for a while before stuff goes back to quote unquote normal and they reset the timelines is Thomas Wayne. Like Bruce has died and Thomas Wayne has become Batman.
Yeah.
So
Owlman was a different part of that. I want to say Owlman was, oh boy.
Okay. Yeah.
Testing limits of my knowledge that I don't.
It's fine. It's cool.
I admit,
again, very
Batman is not a character that I actually know. Like I don't have that stuff locked in my head. I truly don't.
And that's a newer development. We're not talking about like a Clayface or something here, where we've got all the encyclopedic knowledge. Okay, so we'll keep it in the comic book family here. I did mention Supergirl. I'm sorry, you volleyed to me, or I stole the ball. I don't know which. Either way, timeout. Haha, fooled you. That was my technique. Supergirl season 4, which has wrapped. I think they're into season 5 now.
How much Martian Manhunter is there, and is it good?
A plenty, and yes, continues to be one of the strongest parts of that show.
Good.
I think what I did mention about this, I was early on into it last time we talked, is that it goes kind of headfirst into politics.
Yes.
Like it's very, very blatant about all of that. It's not under the surface at all. It's, in fact, the main storyline concerns this rising fascist leader played by Sam Witwer, I think. We just saw him in The Mist.
Yeah.
Not too long ago. And he sucks. Like, it super sucks. Like, at times, like, there are entire episodes where I'm like, I don't know if I need to know why he's a racist. Like, if you have issues with that, that's going to be hard going. Because he's a blue-collar man that slowly, over the course of whatever, begins to hate aliens because they took his jobs or his dad lost his job or something. I don't know. But he becomes Agent Liberty, who has a history in the comics, not as a fascist, I believe, but they turn him into a fascist icon in Supergirl, which I think is actually kind of cool. I don't have, maybe if I had a more of an affinity for that character, I would have a bigger issue with it, but
sure,
I thought it was a cool twist. But yeah, it's either done so well or so poorly that it sucks. Like, it's really in your face in that they've created a world where racism is kind of a threat to everything. That's a bad way to put that. Racism is a threat to everything, but it's reached such a fever pitch. It's like if Charlottesville happened and things just kept going and got worse from there, which I guess you could argue, but and more of those just kept happening. And maybe it's because we're dealing with a single city where tensions are rising or whatever. So either way, it's really in your face and it sucks to see that. And you're like, man, like at every turn, it's just another gut punch. Like Agent Liberty finally gets taken into custody, gets arrested, and you're like, oh, this is going to calm down a little bit. I think it comes right at the mid-season too. And his wife sees a lot of stuff happen. You're like, oh, this is the time where the wife sees what he's become, and then like he loses her, and that really makes him rethink stuff or whatever. No, his wife sees what happens and totally takes his side, and his son does the same thing and kind of carries the torch from there. Like, it just gets super annoying in how much everybody's like, yeah, racism, yeah,
because the unfortunate reality is that's real. Like, that's how so much of that idiocy, and it is. Let's not even play around with it. Racism is for morons. You have got to be. It's
bad. Did you know?
You have got to be the dumbest. But and it's such and it's a learned thing too. It's taught. It's not something you suddenly are. You know.
Oh yeah.
And so I think that show, like, when you talk about stuff like that, that's going to speak to exactly the reality of I saw this happen once. This thing happened to a person that I think is the right person, and so now I hate everybody. You know, it's
No, it's his obviously his whole worldview falls apart at every second. Where I disagree a little bit with their portrayal here, at least in what you're saying, is that he's not necessarily a stupid guy. He's stupid in the leaps he's taking or the worldview he's adopted, but he's portrayed as a smart guy that has.
No. I'm just saying that racism is inherently for stupid. It's a piece of stupidity, and you can be the most brilliant person, but if you're racist, you are absolutely a moron in other respects.
No argument here. Yeah, but Supergirl season 4 is good for all of this. Like, it's a really bold-faced portrayal of a lot of that, and that's obviously commendable and watchable. Like, it's still pretty good. Manchester Black is a pretty compelling, and I should say I'm not done with the season actually here. We watched up into the crossover, whatever they called it last. I want to say they called it Crisis, but that's what they're calling it this time too. I don't know. Whatever the crossover was. And I haven't seen how everything wraps up just yet. There's a Valentine's Day episode where the bad guy is going around ripping people's hearts out. Did you hear about this thing? It's pretty great.
Did you hear about that?
Did you hear about that? Yes. No, it's not that section.
Oh.
That's the other show. I think that's probably it for Supergirl.
Okay.
I'll let you know how that wraps up someday.
Yeah.
Overall, the show, it's above Flash, so I'm not like...
I feel like most people feel that way, that it's actually been consistently the best of those shows.
I guess we've said that too. We spoke about a little bit because it came from a different network where I think the production values were a little bit higher, and they have appeared to stick with that. But yeah,
that's the other thing I do want to mention about Gotham in comparison. The production value on that show is significantly higher, like
really?
By a pretty big margin, man. Like, the production values are higher in Gotham.
Okay. The
other thing is, and again, not trying to rag here, but there's obviously a look thing. I also kind of wonder if it's more who's shooting the shows too, like who's actually
certainly could be. Yeah.
All right.
This is gonna go on forever. It's in your court now, sir.
Very good. So let's stick with DC. I've got lots of it. Let's go with okay. How do you feel? Let me ask you a question. Do you want me to go animated or live action?
Yes.
Which one? They're both getting there.
You've got to strategize, my friend. Which one's going to be what you need right now in the moment, where the
you know
ball
what?
is
All right,
at?
Fine. Let's go with Doom Patrol.
Nice try getting me to work your game for you, though.
I see. Get you to lose on your own.
Doom Patrol, nice. That's the
DC Universe
the web thing, right? Yeah,
it
one
is,
of the web ones.
It is, yes. Brendan Fraser, Alan Tudyk. The ever wonderful Timothy Daltz has a cameo. I've only watched the first episode of it.
Oh, okay.
One hell of an intro, though, man. That's a show that I can't wait to see how that goes. The fact that Brendan Fraser is
a national treasure.
Yeah, I have always liked the guy. I did. I like him. I like his demeanor. I like how he act. I like his characters, and playing the character that he plays in this, where he's a voiceover. There are a couple of live action shots of him, but he's a voiceover. There's somebody else in the costume because he's a metal man. He's got a metal head. He's totally metal.
Interesting. Wait. What's the name of the metal dude? What's his name? I keep running. Everything's going back to DC Legends. I keep running into a DC Legends character. It's not him.
No.
Oh, okay.
It's not Smile. You're thinking of Smile.
No. His name's like Robert Dugan or Patrick or Stripe or something.
Yeah, you're thinking. Yeah, I was gonna say Stripe is the one you're thinking of. Doom Patrol is not a comic I was familiar with. I know it exists. I've seen the characters before.
That's where I'm at.
But I did not. I don't know anything about them. Nope. I've never read any of the books. So this was all kind of a jump into something new for me for the most part. And his name is Robot Man, actually.
Dang it.
Cliff Steele is the character's name. But the show is totally all of the characters in the show somehow get their character or get their powers through like terrible circumstances. That's all like a tragedy. And they're all basically at a point where it's like the reason they're called the Doom Patrol is because, okay, whatever. Who cares? The Doom Patrol is in so many ways a Suicide Squad. There are a bunch of people that don't quite know how their powers work yet or what they are or why, but they don't, and they don't fit together. They don't know each other. And so it's in so many ways, it is Doom Patrol is X-Men. Timothy Dalton is essentially the character who brings them all together under his house, right. Under his rule, not really rule, but under his like tutelage, and they become the Doom Patrol. They have to go and save the world and do superhero-y things. And I don't have a ton on it because I really need to go back and rewatch it again. But I loved it. Like the look of it was great. Also, by the way, Greg Berlanti, it's Greg Berlanti, not Guggenheim. Berlanti. Greg Berlanti is the guy who does all the CW stuff. He's the dude in charge of it.
But he's not showrunner. Like Bruno Heller is showrunner.
Bruno Heller is the showrunner of Gotham. I think right. Guggenheim might be the showrunner of Arrow. But I don't know. There's whatever.
Oh, that would make sense. And then they call the whole thing the Arrowverse anyways.
Right.
They probably elevated him to like Feige or something, you know.
Right. Something of that. But the show, this and the other live action show that I will touch on, and actually I'll just jump into it because I'm gonna do two for because
bump set to himself. Go.
That's right, because I don't have a ton on either of them. Really good though. Production value is totally there. The actors are there. The story so far is really interesting. I'm interested to see how these characters all come together. So
still talking about Doom Patrol.
Yes.
Okay.
The follow-up show that I watched immediately after was the first episode of Titans.
The other web one.
Yep. Same showrunners. This one is Teen Titans. Oh, by the way, Cyborg is actually in Doom Patrol. Not the same guy from the movie Justice League, but Vic Stone character.
Right. Which I kind of assumed would be in Titans, actually.
I would have as well. But Titans is definitely going along they're sticking with the Teen Titans aspect, and that the big main character of the show is of course Robin, who will eventually become Nightwing.
Finally, a DC Universe show that can use teens.
Right. I'm so glad that you mentioned that.
Grant Gustin, famously 16 years old this year. Happy birthday, Grant.
Yes, his head is 28, though. The one part of his body that just won't stop growing. So Titans is it's the characters you kind of expect. Nightwing, or he starts off as Robin. He becomes
right.
Nightwing. Actually, it's in the second season, and I'm still in the first episode of the first season. But I know that in the second season he gets the Nightwing costume.
Oh, nice. That's quicker than I would have thought, actually.
Yeah, Starfire's in the show.
Raven
is in the show.
I know all of these from Teen Titans Go.
Beast Boy.
Jason
Todd shows up. Donna Troy, who's Wonder Girl. Dove shows up, so does Hawk. Sure. And the main bad guy for season 2 is Slade Wilson.
That fits.
Rose Wilson is in the show. Connor shows up as well. Connor Kent.
Oh, sure.
They're going big with it. And they're straight up doing the costumes. And if you have not seen the Deathstroke costume,
they look good, man.
The Deathstroke costume, like that freaking is up. That's up there with up against the one which, and yeah, I don't care what you say about the movie in general. That looked really good especially in comparison like to the one from the Justice League movie, because that costume looked straight up awesome. This is real close.
I can't remember the Justice League Deathstroke. Was that
right at the very,
stinger?
very, very end? It's the bumper. It's the stinger where he pulls up on the boat, gets onto the boat with Lex, and Lex says, "Shouldn't we form a legion of our own?"
Is that Joe Manganiello?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember which one he was doing where.
Yep. Isai Morales is the one for the show. So far, though, both of those shows, man, great production value. I think that, for me anyways, when I sit down on the show like this, I'm a 90%er that Beth is probably not going to be interested in it. It's not. She's open to all that stuff. The superhero ones that are like that are a little goofier, like it's not really her thing.
Yeah.
But every time like she'll pop her head in and she'll see me watching Gotham and she goes, I swear every single time I see this show, it looks like fun and I'd probably enjoy it. Yeah, you probably would.
Wait, is this just a way to talk about Gotham again?
I turned on Titans and she sat down right away, and at the end of it she went, I really like that show. I want to watch the rest of it. It was good. Like the whole first.
Beth's seal of approval.
Yeah, it's a good one. Like the whole first episode is a lot of Dick Grayson as a cop. He's a cop, just straight up cop. He's not in costume. He's playing a police officer. And the first person that he gets in contact with because of his job is Raven. So
why did they have to make him a police officer?
Well, I guess let's go with this question. I don't read Nightwing. I never have read Nightwing. Nightwing is always a character that comes into other books. I don't care about his solo stuff.
I only know him from being Robin first and then Nightwing later on.
There you go. Same thing. But Bruce has $1 billion. He runs Wayne Enterprises. That's how he does his stuff. Robin doesn't have that kind of money. And the way they're playing this up is that he very much so did not want to take money from Bruce. Like that was always something Dick was like in the comics too. He never wanted everything Bruce had. He wanted to be able to do what Bruce could do. So I think this is a way for Dick to have hands on in the crime world, know what's going on. You know, it makes sense for the character.
Yeah, you've kind of sold me on it right then. I'm just one of the things I haven't talked about yet. I am a little bit down on with some of these shows.
Why would Bruce Wayne be working at Starbucks?
No, it's more like there are so few secret identities, almost like Flash. Iris is a reporter. Supergirl, she's a reporter. Like there's so many freaking reporters.
Oh sure.
I'm like, come on, there's got to be something else. And the policeman kind of just, I felt like it was almost another one of those. But you're right, it kind of makes more sense. Maybe it's even just a mixture of, because isn't there a Eddie something who is an actual, like there's an actual cop figure that's buddies with Batman in that universe. It might even be Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character from the third Batman.
No, well, maybe, but
who almost became Robin.
He was called Robin for crying out loud in the movie.
At the end,
I hate it. He mentions it earlier on, doesn't he? Doesn't he mention that they called him the Robin and that like it's an off? I don't think so. I don't know.
He's just a B cop, I think, for the most part throughout that. Whatever. Yeah, sure. Doom Patrol.
In any case, Doom Patrol and Titans, totally worth your time if you're into those shows. If you're into comic book stuff, I like them. They're significantly higher production value than the other two shows.
I did watch the trailer for Titans, probably season 2 at this point, and it did. Like I was surprised. It looked pretty darn good. Because there are times throughout all these shows, even Supergirl here and there, but because they often dip into CGI and but like they're all about aliens, so you get some prosthetics that are kind of like, oh, I can tell it's TV. Like the trailer for Titans, I was like, hey, that looks almost movie good.
No, they're like they're the costume quality and stuff. Their stuff looks great. I will say, dude, I think in comparison to especially the CW shows, they nail the costumes here. Cool. I send the ball to you, my friend.
All right. And I'll probably close out, depending on what you come back with, the comic section of this thing. I'm halfway through Marvel Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. Season 6, which I believe has already wrapped. I think it was a short season. There's like only 13 or so episodes in there, which I don't know why. I haven't looked up if that's coming back or why that might have been or whatnot. That show has been off the rails for a little bit now, and much of it appeared to have done or have been with Infinity War and Endgame, because they obviously couldn't be around for all that. So they got thrown into space, they got thrown into the future. Well, it seems like they're trying to make their way back, which I would absolutely love at this point. I think that show has always been at its strongest when it's been kind of almost like an X-Files replacement, like that when there's been actual, even if it's just creature features, but real world cases that they're trying to solve or tackle. And not that it doesn't or can't be involved with the MCU in some way. I think it's been good when that's happened too. I
remember we talked about it because I have never been high on the show. That show has been impossible for me to get into. And
until Carter, it was my number one
comic TV show period.
But I remember you mentioning that too, that it took a bit for you to get into, and then there was a major change.
Well, it's taken a bit to get back into kind of at this point. They've been away for so long, and while there was some interesting stuff with the Kree and all that stuff, it's been so disconnected from what it's been, but also what the MCU is at this point, which it feels like they were trying to find their own footing for the longest time. I think they found it, and I super enjoyed the show. And now they're either leaning too hard on that or just kind of spinning their wheels, trying to get back to where they were. Because at this point, they're trying to come back from space. They're all separated. So we've got most episodes, they're not all together anyways. It's just, for the first half of this season, hasn't really got good or compelling until the very last episode that I saw, which was, I think, episode 10. So there's, a little over halfway through. It's just Ming-Na Wen kind of holds it all together. The character they've created is good, kind of in and out of anything at this point. Like I would love if she made her way into the MCU somehow, which probably won't happen. I mean, they haven't even done that with Clark Gregg since he's been in, with Coulson.
Which again, it's just one of those, that is such a weird thing to me.
Yeah, the lines they draw are weird at some points, but I just want, I kind of want to reset on the series, and not in a way that they're doing. Also, it seems like they had a story for this short season and padded a lot of it, because there's some where it's just like the two
Fitz and Simmons.
And yes, it's Simmons and Quake, one of the Inhumans in the show that's left. The main girl, she was a K-pop actually before.
Sure.
I can't remember. They go to a planet looking for Fitz, and they accidentally take some things that are drugs. So the whole episode is them like trying to find Fitz, and it's like it's A to B, but it's like A to A.12345 to B. It's taking too long with some stuff, and it's not particularly entertaining or compelling, because there's no overarching thing that I'm attached to like I was in the other ones. So
right.
It's been kind of a downer so far.
Huh.
I don't know. Like I said, it's a short season. Maybe they've been canceled, and I don't know. But
the show is over. The show is definitely over.
The season's definitely over. The show is over, you're saying?
I don't think that was it, but there's a series finale, I think, that's coming up.
Okay. Well, I'll be interested to see. It could be time. Like, I've never been a fan. We definitely talk about this every single time we do a TVVB, but I've never been a fan of how TV just will go on forever until the ratings dip enough that we have to end the show, I guess. Like, if they know the end's in sight and they got to write something that's an ending, like, that would be more compelling than what I'm watching so far. So I would be into that.
So season 7 is the last season.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I've got one more season. All right. Yep. So this season will wrap up with however it wraps up. And it's not like, now that I'm into it, the thing that's interesting is the main plot. Like there are these aliens called the s.h.i.e.L.D, and they're trying to invade the world. Coulson's back in the show. He actually died last season, but he's got a look-alike that's back for whatever reason, and there's some mystery as to why he has Coulson's face. The bad girl knows why, but she hates him, and they hate each other. This last episode, and actually no, I won't spoil that. This last episode ended like with a bang, to the point where I was like, okay, like now I'm in, like let's do this. So,
I have to assume it's similar to the Spider-Man thing, right? With Fury.
I don't know what you're referring to.
In Far From Home, where it's not actually Fury.
Oh, well, we definitely know it's not Coulson. We just don't know why he's taken Coulson's face. And we find out from... And honestly, I don't mind saying this, because I think the series would have been more interesting had I known this sooner. The Coulson lookalike doesn't have any memories past an encounter with the bad girl. I forget what her, Mylena or something like that. Like the girl who's in charge of
Shao Kahn's daughter.
The girl who's in charge of all these evil bats. So he doesn't know where he's from either. So there's a mystery there that I am interested in, but we just barely got it. So
right.
Yeah, performance is good. Story, show, been better. Go watch the Knight Rider. Yes, go watch the Knight Rider season number 1. Also, go watch the Ghost Rider season number 2.
All right.
And speaking of number 2, right back at you.
All right. Let's see here. Let's. Ooh. I'm not.
That's an ooh of this show is going to go on forever, right?
No, it's just an ooh of I don't know which direction to go. I got one line on this because I haven't really had time to absorb it yet.
That's cool. I've got one line on whatever you're hitting back to me. So
okay,
go for it.
Harley Quinn the animated series debuted on Friday.
Oh, had no idea it existed.
Yeah, another one of those DC Universe shows. Animation's great. Beautiful, looks exactly like you'd expect. Very similar to, I won't say very similar to Batman, the animated series, but it's bright. It's got nice colors. It's well drawn. Batman is played by
No, it's not Kevin Conroy.
It's not Kevin Conroy.
Troy Baker.
Nope. It's Diedrich Bader. Diedrich Bader is, Diedrich Bader. He was on.
I do, but
he actually did the voice of Batman for Batman Beyond, I think, or something.
Diedrich Bader.
But he, if you don't, do you know who I'm talking about?
I can't place it. Like
he,
the name,
he was in
obviously.
Drew Carey. He was in the Drew Carey show. But he was also you probably best remember him.
Oh, freaking yes,
Napoleon Dynamite.
Yes, okay.
He was
that works. He could do that.
Well, he's got the great voice.
Yeah, he's Batman.
Kaylee Cuoco is doing the voice of Harley.
Okay.
And
although Tara Strong, would an entire series using Tara Strong be too much?
So no, it would not be. Or it would
an
be.
entire season using Kelly Cuoco be too much?
Yeah, so Kaylee Cuoco's playing Harley. Lake Bell plays Poison Ivy. Alan Tudyk is the Joker.
Sure.
Great Joker, by the way.
Oh, hey, that's a good cast.
Jim Rash. Love good old Jim Rash.
Freaking Community.
Yep. Playing the Riddler.
Oh, that's good. Ah, that is good. Dude, a live action with Jim Rash as the Riddler
would be perfect.
If he just
instead they went
just a small to play dark
instead they went and hired Paul Dano for it. What a waste.
Wait, what?
Paul Dano is playing the Riddler in Matt Reeves' Batman flick that comes out next year.
Really?
Paul Dano is in it.
I like Paul Dano.
No, I love Paul Dano. I actually I think he's people did.
That'll work.
People did some mock-ups of him, and he actually will look really good if they stick with it. Here's the one that'll probably throw you off a little bit. Colin Farrell, gonna be the Penguin.
Yeah.
There's somebody else.
Yes, that's against type, but Colin Farrell, I've just never been a fan of. So
well, that's why I was like, it's probably gonna throw you off a little bit. There's somebody else in the movie too, and I don't remember who it is. But the one that I also really enjoyed was Christopher Maloney, who I just think is delightful and everything.
He's amazing. Love him.
He's Gordon, and the first clip I saw of the show that made me have to go watch it is Harley on the roof with Batman and Gordon just losing his mind trying to understand and explain everything, and he the way they've drawn him, he's just got 7 o'clock shadow. He's clearly just tired, and Christopher Maloney is playing him like he has not slept in 6 days, and it's great.
That's amazing. That's great.
The show is very much so adult oriented. It is not for kids. They're dropping F-bombs left and right. They're going big on that. It was fun though. For a first episode, I am super interested to see where it goes, and I'm not usually into the crassness for crassness sake. It can be funny. There are definitely times when just going overboard with it can be funny. I think it worked for this episode. I hope that it does not continue that route, but it could still work. So I'm interested.
You want maybe a Deadpool and not a Wolfenstein Youngblood.
Yes, that's exactly. That's a great comparison analogy. Yeah, no, absolutely.
All right. That number one, that was more than one sentence.
Yeah, sorry. To you.
So again, I'm off my game here. We finally started watching the YouTube original series Impulse, which, if you remember, was the show based on the Jumper universe.
I did not know that existed in any respect.
I get the feeling not a lot of people do. I maybe famously like the Jumper movies just fine. I know we didn't do a show on it, but I recently watched it and talked about it, and can have fun watching that movie. I get why it's bad, quote unquote, but is entertaining to me.
Yeah.
This is not as much, and sure, because it's a show, you're looking at a slower burn. It's going to take time before it gets to maybe somewhere more interesting, or maybe somewhere where the movie got, where you are dealing with, kind of superheroes in a way.
Yeah.
But this starts with a young lady who hasn't discovered her powers yet. And actually, no, it starts with freaking Keegan-Michael Key crawling away, like being killed by a jumper in Antarctica. And that's the only Keegan-Michael Key we see for the entire series so far. I'm only 2 episodes in, and my wife is off the train already, if that gives you any indication. I will keep going for a little bit at least. But yeah, it's kind of rough. Like, I think there's 2 things going on here. I think it's almost as if somebody had an idea for something dark and serious, because it deals with there's a sexual assault pretty early on from a garbage teenager, high schooler, the girls in high school still. And it's dark for that reason, sure, like that's a dark thing. And I think maybe they want to say something about that, and that's fine and good. Like, stuff needs to be said about that. But at the same time, sometimes it's not fun to watch. And the whole thing isn't about that. Like, that figures in pretty prominently, and I get the feeling that it is going to. Like, I would be interested in kind of a character study on what that PTSD looks like.
Sure.
And how that manifests, because it happened to the girl that's coming into her powers type thing. So there could be something there. It's almost like somebody had that idea, and they were like, well, yeah, you can explore that, but you got to do it in the Jumper universe. And they're like, okay. So on the one hand, it kind of seems like that.
And then they were like,
Well, and then on the other hand, it's kind of not, it's either not fun or not compelling just yet. So that makes it hard to watch. So I'm pretty early on, hoping that goes somewhere more interesting than it has so far. Like, hopefully somebody's sticking with, somebody has a vision that I can't see yet type thing.
Fair enough.
So a little tiny, dark, low energy volley back to you, sir.
All right. I'm going to do another twofer on you.
Okay, cool.
I've
only got big hitters from here on out.
I've got
bring it.
3 big hitters. So I'm going to do 2 that are relatively small. One, real fast. Good Place season 3. The final season of the show is happening right now on TV. Season 4 is finishing up. That's the series finale. Season 3, once again, man, this show, every season, all 3 seasons, they have figured out a way to turn this show into more than it was in the best way possible, and I don't get it.
Even from season to season.
Yes. Yeah. Huh. Season 1, you don't know the concept. Season 2, you know the concept, so they have to change it up. Season 3, you know that they know the concept, so how do they fix it then? So you go from The Good Place in the first movie, they're dead. The second season, they're dead. Now they're working together with the bad guy, essentially. The third series takes place almost all on Earth, where they're trying to figure out how to get them to not go to hell.
Like actual Earth,
yes.
Not the recreation of whatever.
They're actively going onto Earth, being demons, and one of them not being even a demon. She's not anything. She's Janet. Go to Earth to meddle with the characters to get them to go into one place so that they can come together and be better people, because they realize that these people always succeed together and never apart. So get them together, and maybe they'll get out of hell or the bad place.
All right.
Freaking amazing. And then on top of just the premise being fantastic, and then the whole way they put him together is just weird. You get more Adam Scott as the anti-Janet. Awesome. Janet, of course, is still the best part of the show, and everybody's great. All of that whole show is fantastic. Season 3, once again, this series may end up being one of my favorite of all time if it lands.
Really?
If it lands the series finale, yeah, this is probably going to go into that pantheon of there are not a whole lot of shows that are better than this. That's really freaking good.
And it sounds like such a different thing. Like, it's not like you would say that about 30 Rock, I feel like, too.
Definitely.
But in such a different way, right?
Absolutely.
Like this.
But it's still,
I guess that's how that works.
But they fall into the comedy thing. It's like there is just nothing that Michael Schur did something very unique with this, and I don't know that it's. I don't know how it managed it, and all I've heard about season 4 is it's good. So I'm looking forward to finishing the series out It'll be very exciting.
I'm looking forward to starting it.
And then keeping on with the comedy stuff, man, this full season, I don't know how they managed to do it. What We Do in the Shadows. Holy crap.
What we do in the shadows?
That is one of the funniest shows. It's an adaptation of the movie.
I was going to say, wasn't that a Taika Waititi movie? Okay.
Adaptation of the movie that was written and directed by Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement from Flight of the Conchords.
Mm-hmm.
The series, the teleplays were all done by Jermaine Clement. He directed at least 2 of them. The show stars Matt Berry. He's the main draw for me. He's the one that I knew. Everybody else in the show is somebody I'm not familiar with. They've been in stuff. The show follows the movie very closely in terms of what it's about. There's a documentary crew. They are with a group of vampires that live in their house. They've decided like one of the brilliant things here is that in the movie they made a big deal about, there are different vampires, but there's also werewolves and stuff like that. Well, in this they've decided to add even a little bit further by saying, yes, there are other vampires, and one of the vampires they live with is an energy vampire. And he just is like, he's a guy, when you see him, him, you've seen him before. And I actually think he might have been on a couple of episodes of The Office in the late seasons as one of the office or one of the warehouse workers. But he's this like totally dorky guy that just like he doesn't the other vampires kind of dress in fashion. They're very ornate in what they're wearing and they're very vampire. And then you've got this guy and he's like, hey guys, and he just talks to you about nothing, and you just see people like falling asleep in front of him. and it's just one of these really great little like additions. And so the show kind of follows Guillermo, who is Nandor the Cruel. I think that's the vampire's Nandor the Cruel. Guillermo is his familiar, who really wants to be a vampire. And the show starts with him 10 years in on this, being the familiar. And he's like, I think it's coming. My birthday is happening, and I think I'm going to be a vampire soon. And it's really witty. If you thought that the movie was funny, you're going to love the show because it is hitting on every one of those cylinders. It is watching it's watching Jermaine Clement do Flight of the Conchords. It's Flight of the Conchords.
I'm so into that.
It is so funny. And I like one of the funniest things to me is that Guillermo is constantly like, okay, master, I can't wait to help. And Nandor is like always looking at the camera going, yes, thank you. You're doing this like there's a moment where Nandor is holding him up and like flying him in front of a mirror. And he's like, how does it look, Guillermo? It looks wonderful, master. Like I'm flying, like I'm a real vampire. And Nandor's like holding up, looking at him. And then he looks at the camera and he goes, but you are not. like it is so funny. It's so well done. The actors are great. Matt Berry is always universally wonderful, and he does nothing but kick it out. He kicks out the jams all day long.
Oh,
yeah.
He kicks it out of the park, the jams.
He does. I do enjoy how he goes in his very like, he has a, do you know who Matt Berry is?
No.
Have you ever watched?
I'll probably recognize him.
Have you ever watched the IT Crowd?
Yes.
He was
at your insistence.
Yeah. So he was he's the head of
he the black guy or the
no? He's the head of the corporation.
He wasn't Dowd. Oh, right.
No, the Moss is Richard Iwata. Renholm. Yes. He's that guy. But he totally has that like. There's the first time you meet him in the IT Crowd.
Wait. He's a vampire?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Are you kidding?
And the first time you meet him in the IT Crowd, it's at his father's funeral, and he's talking to somebody in the crowd, and the priest says something to him, and he says, "Excuse me," and he turns and goes, "Speak, priest." Like everything about that character, the Renholm character, is like he's doing that, but if the character was also an idiot vampire, so like
he would not have to change his voice at all between the two shows,
and he does it
essentially. Yeah, okay.
But he does.
Okay, all right. This show's gonna go on forever.
He just stops and he goes bat, and he becomes a bat and flies away.
Okay, pretty good.
What We Do in the Shadows? Check that out.
Sold.
Watching. It's streaming that one's streaming on Hulu, by the way.
Oh,
don't even have to download it.
I will.
Okay.
Through Hulu.
Volley to you, because now it's big hitters and we got hardly any time.
Yes, and I'm going to criminally spend not enough time on this big hitter, although I guess I did last time. I finished up and am now current with season 4, which is... I'm current with the show of Better Call Saul.
Nice. I'm still way behind on that.
My gosh. I'm sure we spoke profusely, superlatively about this show last time because I never don't. But what they do with the 4th season is they start out in a way, like for the first episode, I begin to finally think for the first time that maybe he didn't have this all planned out from the beginning. Like Breaking Bad, I loved great, but there are times where I'm like, okay, this happened after the show got huge and he figured out he could either keep going forever or add a couple shows into it. Yeah, we did mention that. And we were like, well, when Vince Gilligan does it, it's still great type thing.
Sure.
This with Better Call Saul, season 4, beginning of season 4, I'm like, it was the first time where I was like, oh, maybe, this is hitting and he didn't actually have this in mind at first. That lasts about an episode. And then I'm like, holy crap. Like this is where they're going with the characters. And it was neither of the directions I thought from either. Yes. Like Kim, it turns out, and the thing that happens is that they're all recognizable human reactions or human, I don't even know what to call it, man. I'm sure there's a word for it. It's like you recognize the humanity of what they're doing in a way that I've never seen in any other show, and in a way that like goes zigs and zags to you just don't expect it coming either. There's a karaoke episode that if it didn't, I know there was Emmy buzz about this thing. I don't know. I saw Saul. Gosh dang it, Bob Odenkirk on an interview somewhere where he walks in with an Emmy and there was some buzz around this season that they might finally win one. I don't know. If they didn't, it should have been for the episode with the karaoke, because each episode kind of begins with these microcosms wherein they very allegorically tell the tale of where they're at, where they've been, why they are who they are. It's just so beautifully done. It's so amazing. And to go into any more detail would be to actually spell out what characters I thought and what they actually were.
Sure.
But I will say in the case of Saul, because his that would definitely be a spoiler. I don't want to spoil it.
Okay, let me ask you this simple question, because I got first season done. I got midway through the second season and nothing was wrong with it at all. I just fell off for whatever reason. Very clearly at the beginning of that series, they're very, 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 very explicitly clear he is not Saul Goodman at all. He is nowhere, like he is not that character yet. Are you starting to see that character, the one that we're expecting to get to?
Yeah, so you figured out the show. Basically, the show is the journey, and I would imagine this is where it ends. But yeah, it's the journey of Jimmy McGill.
Yeah,
becoming Saul Goodman.
Right. But I mean, like, are we getting to the point now? Because my recollection is that Gilligan said he had 5 seasons planned for this, and at the end of the 5th season, and again, this is recollection. Also, could just be bull. But the end of the 5th season, and why this whole next season was supposed to be a big deal, was that there's the very good possibility that Cranston and Aaron Paul get called back to do some fill in, I guess, that puts it. So I'm curious if you're getting there further and further, you're getting closer, you're really starting to see it. Yeah,
like there were moments where, in fact, pretty close to the end of the season where I was like, oh, is this it? Like, I don't keep up on when shows are ending, so a lot of times they just end on me. Me and my wife are looking at each other like, oh, is this looks like it might end because he's essentially turned into Saul Goodman. It doesn't. They do have one more season, and I could very easily see that being the last one. But yes, he's more Saul Goodman this season than ever before. Awesome. And it's in a way where Saul Goodman, being this lawyer that's very much okay with bending the law, like almost seeks out or is known for being the criminal lawyer, not just in defense, but in,
literally
in action. Yes. So that's why Walter White gets, tied up with him. Throughout the series, Better Call Saul, there are moments where he's kind of going back and forth. Like, he's still a good man. There's a major thing that happens in season 3, and season 4 is basically how he responds to that. And how he responds to that is in a way that kind of pushes him farther, but it's so nuanced in that they create a character where he's not just a criminal. Like, he's not just like, I know this is bad and I'm doing this because it's bad. He is so good at being this lawyer criminal, like, that he's taken the truth and almost sells himself on it, or begins to use it, the truth, as an emotional manipulation tool, but on himself almost without knowing. It's so hard to explain, but it's done so well. It's just so crazy because you think you know where it's going, and you're like, oh man, none of this would be possible without Kim, without Rhea Seehorn, and the way she plays both her character and off of him. It's phenomenal, that show. So yeah, definitely keep watching it.
Yeah, I should get back into that.
We've got 8 minutes. So
okay, here
let
me
hitters.
we've got
one that's the same at least, right?
Yeah, and the other two. All right, Walking Dead. I'm almost to Negan actually showing up. The saviors are finally the saviors have finally shown up. Show is so far not awful. Still liking it.
Okay.
The other show I want to spend time on, and we don't have the time for it, is Watchmen. The series hasn't ended yet. I've still got one more episode to go. So I'm just going to put a pin in it, and I will straight up just say this. Call it hyperbole, you call it whatever you want. That's the best superhero show ever to hit television, which is markedly annoying because I just said that not last time about The Boys.
We've got a new one every time.
But that's reality, man. Watchmen and The Boys are the two best comic book shows to have touched television, freaking period, out of the world. So good. So good.
It makes sense, man. Like, the ones that get good are the ones that finally deconstruct some of that, and that's the Watchmen invented that. So it's nice that they got it right. It seems like.
Man.
And we did talk about that a little bit in some show not too long ago, so you can go there.
So not only did they this is the only thing I want to mention strictly about Watchmen, that not only did they get all that right. You talked about Supergirl hitting all the politics stuff. Watchmen is doing it, and not only in the right way, it's doing it better than any program I've seen in a long time. And not only are they talking about things, in particular racism, white supremacy, stuff like that, they're not beating around the bush with it. They're straight up showing it. They're talking about it. This show is Khalif from Spawn on Me actually referred to this as like the blackest show on TV, and I get why. Like, this whole show is
just really dark.
It's
sorry.
The main character, Angela, she's a black woman. Her husband, like, black family, and the whole show revolves around the concept of people not understanding Rorschach and using him as a white supremacist icon. And
oh wow,
and that's a huge part of it. There's a huge
that's too good.
It's really freaking good. There's too much to talk about to even like that. That's already too much. So let's go to the last one that we both have, and we can say finally that this is the way. The Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian.
AKA the resurgence of Nick Nolte.
Yeah, well, you keep saying he's in there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where is he in there?
He's the little guy. He's the guy. This I have spoken.
He's Baby Yoda?
No. Yes. Nick Nolte is reverted to Baby Yoda. No, he's the guy who says, I have spoken.
Oh, you're right. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So what the Mandalorian does for me is
everything
delve into the lore. Well, yeah, and I guess some of it is something that Star Wars show have done. Like, I guess the Mandalorian as a religion or whatever it is has been built out in either Clone Wars or Rebels. I can't remember.
Yes.
I think to some extent. I don't know any of that. I'm sorry. I've maybe
it's
seasoned
irrelevant.
into Clone Wars. Yes. Either way, I'm super interested in that. Number one, like the lore around the Mandalorian, whatever the tribe is, whatever the religion is super interesting to me. Every time they give another piece of that.
Yep.
The other thing I'm into is Baby Yoda. I don't care.
Everybody is. Any human alive that has seen that and says, I don't think it's cute or I don't like it, is a liar. That's just that. You're a liar.
I've seen people that have talked about the first episode like, oh, I get it. Cute Baby Yoda. This is where this is going. Like, whatever. Like, I could understand that. But when it works, man. Like, I'm not so jaded, I guess.
Here's the thing.
I'll fall for it.
Here's the thing about Baby Yoda. Two things. I'm going to break this down for people. Number one,
All right.
You don't walk into a show and walk out after you see Baby Yoda and be like, oh yeah, no, Baby Yoda, I guess this is where it's going. And completely ignoring the fact that the man in the world who has like the most like dark feelings and just has nothing, he has no empathy as far as we can tell. Werner Herzog is in the show. Those don't coincide. So number one, you're dumb. Number two, I love that on set they had started talking about replacing the Yoda puppet with CG.
I heard this too.
And Werner Herzog said, no, it needs to be a puppet. Don't be cowards. Something to that effect.
I believe, he called them cowards.
Yeah, and the reality with that one is that I don't care who, as a director or human you are, when Werner Herzog calls you a coward for something, you do the opposite of it. You don't be a coward.
I was going to say there's an implicit threat, but it's explicit, really. You do it. Yeah, or you're the next grizzly man, I think is what that comes down to.
So here's what I love about this show. Number one, I love all the things you're mentioning. I love that we're finding more Mandalorians, that this is the way. I love that phrase. I love that we're introduced to this character, this person, this Mandalorian, who all we have ever known in terms of barring the animated stuff, we've only ever known Boba Fett. That was it. And Jango Fett. Neither of them ever really did much, right?
Or are Mandalorians, apparently. They just wear the armor.
They wear the armor. So finding out that, he's a great fighter, but he's not the greatest fighter in the world. He can still be beaten up. There's a whole thing to it. I love that. I also love somebody on my Twitter. He's a film reviewer, Adam Frazier. I think his name is actually at Adam Frazier, Farzier on Twitter.
That tracks.
He said something after the most recent episode with Gina Carano where they fought they fight a giant ATST and all this stuff. And he said something that absolutely perfectly encapsulates what this show is for me. It's the show that I have always wanted because it's the story I was telling when I was playing with my Kenner figures in the backyard.
Oh, that's good. It's brought to you by the guy who did that, number one, and turned that into a career, freaking Jon Favreau.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Him and I mean, and the other person, let's not ignore Dave Filoni, who is the dude that he made the Clone Wars and Rebels happen, and those are by all accounts,
he in there?
Amazing.
I did not know.
Yeah, he's like the other director, other writer, producer.
Really?
Whatever. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah. That's cool.
So I love that. That perfectly encapsulates what that show is for me. Now, here is my only question for you, because I have very, very strong feelings about this.
Okay.
2-part question. How do you feel about a character that you never see his face? I'm talking an entire series. Like I'm talking I know. How do you feel about that concept? And then how do you feel if they actually have him pull the helmet off and show his face to people?
Yeah. I laugh because
the last episode really, really nails it for me where, he takes the helmet off, but he very purposefully states, I've never shown my face to anybody since I was their age.
Yeah. Since he was a child.
Yeah.
I laugh because the answer kind of depends on the fact that it's Pedro Pascal, and I've never really enjoyed him in anything yet. So I'm like, it's kind of working because now I'm enjoying him, I guess. I don't know. That's mean, but I don't have anything against his face. I just, I don't care. I will he, won't he take off? Will you see? You know what's kind of ruining me on this is because I feel like I saw some marketing materials where he was sitting at a table somewhere without his helmet on. Like I knew it was Pedro Pascal before the show started. So I don't know.
And the last episode that I saw, anyways, which was the 4th episode, he does take his helmet off. We do see that, but we never see we don't see above his shoulders. We don't even see his neck. We just see him take the helmet off, put it next to him, and he's eating.
Dude, Carl Urban invented this, so I don't know what the big deal is.
That's the thing. It's like, that's what I'm saying. Unless they're going to go to the very end of the show, in the last episode, he goes, I renounce my Mandalorianisms, and then he takes his helmet off, which I also think would be real stupid, unless they really build to that. I don't want to see him with his helmet off. I feel like that, honestly, that's one of those things where even one shot, even one scene where his face is on screen or even shown to somebody where we only see the back of his head, I truly actually think that's a net loss and it impacts the show. And I think it cheapens a whole lot of it, because I don't think there should be any reason for him, no matter what he's supposed to feel, for him to take the helmet off. Like that's the point.
Well, the reason you gave is probably the reason that if it happens, it will happen for it, because they've tried to set up, he's on the outs with the Mandalorians a little bit. Like, he's also part of the Bounty Hunters Guild, and he's definitely on the outs with them because he went rogue and took Baby Yoda, right? So there was a moment there where you thought, well, is he going to be on the outs with the Mandalorians too? Because each time he meets with the higher ups, you do get the feeling that he's almost not one of them. Like the first time he gets in a fight with one of the members a little bit, but it all ends with this is the way. And there is a type of resignation involved with that. So yes, you get the feeling they are building towards some sort of friction between him and his Mandalorian heritage. Also, he mentions that he was picked up by the Mandalorians.
Yeah, he's not
he wasn't
truly
born into
Mandalorian.
it. Yeah. So there is that tension is there. They're probably headed in that direction. I would be bummed because I am so interested in that Mandalorian lore stuff, but they are setting up a tension there. We haven't got there yet, because when he does take Baby Yoda, the Mandalorians show up to bail him out of that fight with the other bounty hunters. So as far as we know, they're on his side, although they've kind of just shepherded him off, protected him so he could leave with the kid and try to, find a place in the middle of nowhere where they do have that. They seven samurai a village in the middle of nowhere for everybody. So
Directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, by the way.
Yeah, that was weird. I saw that at the end. I was like, hey, cool. Sure.
Yeah.
Love the show. The thing I love is that freaking IG unit. I'm so bummed he got shot in the first episode. I would watch an entire, give me the IG unit. Give me the IG-88 show next.
Give me the IG unit.
It was just done so well. Like he was so mechanical. I mean, he must have been CGI to some extent, but and he kept trying to self-destruct himself every time something went wrong. It was so good.
No, I like it. I
really liking that show.
Yeah, no, I'm into it. I will say my interest will seriously. I will have a major dip in interest if the helmet comes off. I won't necessarily stop watching it immediately, but I guarantee you that my interest dips, because once the helmet comes off, it's like, now I no longer have to care about your religion. I don't have to care about the Mandalorians. Now it's just about Pedro Pascal.
Yes, you would have to be interested in him.
And that's not interesting. I'm interested in him as a Mandalorian, not him as random Star Wars character X,
How are you doing with, I've heard some complaints about kind of the slow burn nature of it, and I get that. Like there's an A line in each episode, kind of at best tells that story obliquely through his encounter with the Nick Nolte character, or his encounter with that
Gina Carano.
Yes, exactly. So we get very little about where he's actually going, but they're obviously trying to establish, and it's moving a little bit slowly for some people, I guess. No,
I like it.
Okay.
I think it works,
right.
and I think
Okay.
here's my issue with the complaining on that. By the way, it's a 30-minute show. You're not getting you're not getting an hour of that. You're getting 30 minutes per episode. Like, that's not slow burn to me. Your things are moving along for me. I think it's great.
Also, it's the medium. Like, if we're here for TV, I get it could be more tightly written, but you can't do this in a movie. So the fact they're taking advantage of some of that, that's fine, I think.
Agreed.
Obviously. Do you have any other shows?
No, we're done.
Okay, a 2-hit. I'm going to break the rules, but I've got to talk about this thing for you specifically.
Uh-oh.
I mentioned it real quick. I don't think you heard me because I forced us to speak over each other last show. There's another show on Disney Plus. Have you heard of Encore?
No.
Encore is, they try to say I guess it's presented by Kristen Bell in a way. Like, she's in there sometimes, but it's really not. Is about going and creating these. Each show is a different school. It's a different play, but they go back and find the actors for these high school plays and do an encore show. I want to say it's no longer than a week. I think it starts with 5 days till showtime, but they get there, they reunite the cast.
That's funny.
They, there's two things going on. They have to obviously they bring in professional theater people from, Beauty and the Beast, and so I don't know, professional showrunners, obviously, choreographers and musicians and stuff, and they have to teach them the play again, obviously, so they can perform it. That's one thing that's going on during the show. And then the second thing is that they tell you about the people. They tell you about what's happened since then, what happened while they were in high school, stuff like that. So it's very standard. Like you probably could have guessed that from before I even spoke any of it.
Sure.
But what ends up happening is something it's one of those greater than the sum of its parts things. Like I've never understood so much about performing and performance than I have after this show. It's kind of nuts. Like it builds to the performance of the thing at the end, but then you're watching the people that you got to know throughout the show. And it's amazing to me how often they get people to speak openly, because you got guys coming back that are like police officers now, or like construction workers, like these guys that are like, I haven't even thought about acting or theater since I was in high school type thing, because it is high school, that stuff that you do in there. Some of the guys are like, oh, I was forced to do it, or they asked me to do it because they didn't have anybody at the time type thing. It's so good, man. Like there's something almost so pure about it, and about that performing, the commentary on performance, that I don't know how much of it would be surprising to you, obviously, knowing a lot more about this, but to me, it's super fun.
No, man. It sounds fun.
Yeah.
I'd watch that.
Check it out. Yeah. I would check it out for sure. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's available anywhere else but Disney Plus at this point. So I got in on the free Connected to Fridays. I can't talk about that. Show's over. Hey, thanks for hanging out. I feel bad for going so quick. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that real quick?
Nope. Next week we'll do...
Next week, sorry, before I'm going to interrupt you again. Next week, let's take some time. We don't have it right now, but it's December. We've got a favorite 5 coming up. We've got a holiday coming up. Let's plan a little bit before we say what we're going to do.
Okay.
And then we'll do that. So
sounds good.
Come back next week for whatever that is. And thanks for hanging out this week for whatever it was.
Bye.